Hi, this is Tisch, Aitken, and it is August 1st, 2025, if you can believe that, because I can't. We've been in a year of Mars retrograde. We began the year with Mars retrograde, which is a difficult time to launch a new year. And then when it did station direct at the end of February, Venus, the planet of love, value, worth, and money, retrograded on March 1st initially in Aries and then went back to Pisces, kind of mimicking what Mercury did at that time. But basically, those are big deals because Mercury retrogrades 3 to 4 times a year, and we began a year with both Mars and subsequently Venus retrograde. Mars is every 2 years, Venus is every year and a half. This month, we had 4 points retrograde in Aries. Now, I know Mercury is retrograde. I know everybody knows Mercury is retrograde, and that's a big deal. Mercury retrograded on July 18th at 15 degrees and 34 minutes of Leo. And it will station direct on August 11th at 4 degrees and 15 minutes of Leo. It'll clear its shadow on August 26th, and then it'll leave the sign of Leo altogether on September 2nd. So it's in the sign of Leo for quite a while, and Leo is how you shine, how you express yourself. It's a sign of magnetism, and we are in Leo season right now. In fact, Mercury was cazimi the sun last night, meaning that it was conjunct and it, in a retrograde, but really reflecting on how you can tap into your heart chakra and feel happy and joyous in very difficult times. And in spite of the fact that we began a year with heavy retrogrades, and again, Mercury gets talked about all the time, but Mars and Venus are a far bigger deal. Well, what does Mars rule? It's the modern ruler of Aries. It's the ancient ruler of Scorpio. And this month, we had 4 points retrograde in Aries. Saturn and Neptune both retrograded, and they're working very diligently to form a whole new dream that peaks on February 20th of 2026. Neptune takes 165 years to orbit. It ingressed into the Cardinal fire sign of Aries on March 30th. It retrograded on July 4th, and it will return to the sign of Pisces, just the final degree, from October 22nd through January 26th. It's going to come back to the world point, meaning 0 degrees of Aries. That's a degree of creation, and 0 degrees of any of the cardinal signs is at the world axis. Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And so Neptune retrograded initially. It got to 2 degrees and 11 minutes of Aries. And then Saturn retrograded on July 13th at 1 degree and 56 minutes of Aries. And Saturn will return to Pisces on September 1st through February 13th. Then it goes back into Aries the next couple of years through April of 28. And so Saturn in Aries is working harder to feel confident that you can get the things you want to get accomplished, that you can really anchor this new dream. And we're about to build up to a magical triangle that I'll talk more about. I am experiencing severe creator burnout, and I think it's a lot of these points retrograding in Aries. I too am trying to work with a new dream with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and I think all of you should focus on what you're trying to create. Saturn is building and carving and working hard at anchoring something that is important to you. Neptune dissolves, and we're also seeing a lot of people passing over with Saturn and Neptune close to the world point. Obviously, people on the world stage, and there have been quite a few celebrity deaths of recent, but even more importantly, a lot of people are experiencing it in their own lives of people they know for a long time, co-workers, friends, relatives. Neptune rules Pisces, which is the final sign, and situations getting dissolved in our lives. Neptune dissolves, and it also brings light to things that maybe we don't want to see. And yet Saturn is building Neptune a dream, and that's why I encouraged all of you, starting at the end of March, and then that's when Neptune joined Aries, or entered Aries, and then Saturn joined the party on May 24th. They were still direct then. We only had 1 point retrograde, which was Pluto, that retrograded at the beginning of May. I was encouraging you to take micro and macro steps to work towards this new dream, of which we have no real idea completely. But we have choices. Do we take a stand with Saturn in Aries, where it is in its fall position, and may challenge you, to believe in yourself more? Maybe you feel less confident. I have found when people have Saturn in the first house, which is kind of similar because Aries is the first sign, and the first house of the chart mirrors Aries themes. It's the house of self, house of identity, house of new beginnings. Aries is the very first sign of the zodiac wheel. And so with that, I've found people, when they really commit, that's another key word to Saturn, with it in its first house, within their first house, they can really build things that have lifelong dividends, or certainly long-term dividends, and often get into something very big, whether it's something with their career, new responsibilities, a long-term partnership. It also ignites the opposite house of relationships. Saturn in Aries may be in its fall position, but we're talking about a sign that's cardinal fire. The sun is exalted in Aries. Mars, the planet of drive, ambition, and, it can be very warlike as well, aggression. It rules the sign of Aries. So even though it's in its fall position, Aries are no wimps of the zodiac, so they're going to try to go for it. And we all have to find within ourselves how we can move ahead in very challenging times. How can we come from Neptune, the dream, the higher octave of Venus, love, and Saturn and Neptune, as we get further into the month of August, are part of a beautiful configuration that has probably never happened before. Saturn and Neptune are in the middle of Uranus in the middle of Pluto in Aquarius, and Uranus in Gemini. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, which rules the sign of Gemini. Uranus is the maverick planet, the planet of genius and nonconformism, rebelliousness, but also enlightenment, community, humanitarianism. And Uranus entered the sign of Gemini on July 7th. It's at a very new beginning in a new sign. It will go back to the sign of Taurus, which doesn't like unpredictability. Gemini is a sign of versatility and a sign of learning and communicating and engaging in local activities. So Uranus in Gemini is very exciting for bringing us new ways to learn, connect, and more of a focus on connecting locally. I think with all of this Pisces energy we've endured, 5 years, almost 6 years post-pandemic, we realize that the digital revolution is on steroids and will be for a long time. Platforms, new ways of doing things, AI, obviously is ubiquitous, and that's a fact. But I think there is going to be more of a focus of merging that, global networking, but also what comes with it, the isolation. Even with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, it's like you have to do this yourself, and that's not good. That's not positive, and we've become increasingly alienated. And I feel that with Uranus and Gemini, part of this magical configuration, it is saying again, think locally, do things go hang out at your local mom and pop shops. A lot of local areas are losing their landmarks and neighborhoods and what made them special. We need to focus on that, and we have global ways of doing that. And then you've got Pluto newly in Aquarius, which is going to be incredibly amazing in what it reaches. But we've got Uranus, the planet of brilliance, the modern ruler of Aquarius, making what's known as a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. Uranus and Gemini, they're both air signs. They're not going to be exactly trine this year. They will be in 26, but they're forming a trine, and that is an aspect, a flowing aspect of good fortune. And then Saturn and Neptune, mostly Neptune, but Saturn's close. Neptune is the bridge between the two that's bringing the dream possible. Neptune also in a new sign, and next year when it has its real meetup with Saturn right at the world point, 0 Cardinal, forming a liaison with Pluto and Aquarius, helping you to really bring that connecting and learning to a whole other level, and that ascension and new frequencies and things we have no idea about yet. We really can't fathom all of that we have ahead of us in a good way. And then you've got Uranus and Gemini. I said Pluto and Aquarius. It's in between, and so am I mentally, because I feel burnout. And I will talk about that in a minute too. But this is known as a minor grand trine, and it is very magical, and it's going to be going on for a couple of years. It's going to peak next July, but we're working with this energy this end of summer, early fall, and with that, it's showing you that it's been very tough. Saturn and Neptune can make you feel very stuck. Saturn wants to build something, and Neptune is amorphous and boundless. So that's tough, yet it can be working towards a new dream that may not be tangible or palpable right now, but it doesn't mean that it's not within you, and it's finding that confidence. Sometimes in the worst of times, the most creative things result. People, pioneers, it's been for history, and in many times, in challenging times in history, people that are visionaries take it to another level. And each of us with Pluto and Aquarius, this is about community. And I think Uranus in Gemini is further enhancing that, or further underscoring the fact that we need community. We really do. And it can't just be remote. It's wonderful that we have remote opportunities, but we also need to focus more locally. It's good for our mental health. It's good for our brains. It's good for young people. It's good for the elderly. It's important for all of us. And so just to go over what's happened recently, we know Mercury's retrograded on July 18th. It will station direct on August 11th. At 4 degrees and 15 minutes of Leo. And Mercury in Leo, Mercury retrograde in Leo, is re-examining how you can shine, how you can feel strong within yourself, and how you can open your heart in a very scary world. Because we need to open that heart chakra. Each of us needs to. The more we come from love, Neptune being the higher octave of Venus, the more we will heal a very, very broken world. And what was I going to say? The interesting thing, Chiron retrograded on July 30th and retrograded within the last couple of days at 27 degrees and 10 minutes of Aries. We feel that 5 days before and 5 days afterwards. It's going to station direct on January 2nd at 22 and a half degrees of Aries. Well, that's significant because that's another degree that's at the world point, meaning big world events hitting people on the world stage, but impacting every one of us because we are the world. And this also defaults back to when Saturn and Pluto, the two malefics of the zodiac, converged on January 12th of 2020 at 22 degrees of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and it represents structures, karma, and old ways of doing things, traditions, and many of that got, permanently changed and ended. The way we did that 20th century 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or at least the latter half of it, and the way we did business completely changed. And many people moved during that time. The world changed, and there was mass death and loss of many things with Pluto at the world point, which it would have been from 2019 basically to 2021. And now we're having Saturn and Neptune meeting up at a world degree next February. And in the interim, we now have, so Pluto left Capricorn this time. It's not going back in our lifetime, thank God, because we dealt with enough. It's going to be there the next 19 years in Aquarius, which is embracing the future. We've got, Neptune ingressed into the very beginning degrees of Aries. It'll go back into the last degree of Pisces, which is a fixed star known as Chiron. It is the final degree of the zodiac. It is figuring out how to deal with loss and also tapping more into spirituality and more of a focus on mental health, because that is imperative. And Neptune at the last degree of Pisces is very intense. We also have the eclipses in Pisces, Virgo. And there is a fixed star known as Chiron, which I've talked about a lot, and that can be associated with self-undoing, suicide, and being lost at sea, which is another reason that focus on trying to get together more locally. Some people have tremendous anxiety and are incapable, but as much as we can bring those opportunities and in our own lives focusing on that, I think that's a healing energy. And I think it's good for learning too. I think it's good sometimes to be present and in person. I don't always like it, but I think it's a good thing. I've gotten more used to being remote as well. And I'm remotely getting annoyed about it. I'm kidding. With that too, Neptune retrograded, and it is about building a new dream. Aries is a sign of identity. We had Eris, the goddess of discord, who's Mars' sister, who basically started the Trojan War because she wasn't invited to the party, the wedding at Mount Olympus, and then taunted the other goddesses and said, who's the fairest of them all, or for the fairest of them all, and caused quite a scuffle. Well, Eris retrograded on July 22nd at, 25 degrees and 43 minutes of the cardinal fire sign of Aries. That's 4 points. And Eris actually is a dwarf planet. It takes 557 years to orbit, so it moves very slowly. It's only going to get to 24 degrees and 23 minutes of Aries when it stations direct next year on January 11th, pretty close to where Chiron will be stationing. And this brings a lot of internal anger and being unable to express that. And I think with Chiron retrograde, which again, depression is inverted anger. And so this has been really a lot of challenges with all of that. And all of this fire energy, Mercury retrograded in a fire sign and remains in one through the beginning of September. We've got all of this Aries energy, and now we've got Mercury and the Sun in Leo. So we've got a lot of fire, and that can be a very optimistic energy, but it also can feel, and for me, I feel burned out. I feel maybe like, because you have to do this a lot alone when you're doing videos or writing, and And I think the technology can be very frustrating. I think for all of us. I'm not feeling sorry. I was for a moment feeling sorry for myself about it. But realistically, it happens. And it's a real thing. And it can make you feel really depressed and really unheard. And that's, again, trying to figure out, if I choose to do this, I have to take action. Saturn in Aries. I've got to work hard, Saturn. Be confident, even if I feel I lack. Saturn in the sign of Aries, where it's technically in its fall position. It's exalted in the opposite sign of Libra. I have to say, hey, you want to build this new dream? Well, get it together. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Be a pioneer and get going. And I advise you to do the same. And I wouldn't say it to you in the way I'm saying it to myself, but I think that we have to try, but also honoring that with 5 points retrograde right now, this is a time to maybe take a little bit of a break, which I've done a little bit in the last week. I haven't done a video, I think, for the last 2 times. I haven't done some reels. I'm focusing more on writing because I feel that's when I'm really most clear when I write. And I used to write really long articles, and that's gotten compromised in the last couple of years because of technology. And maybe that's Uranus and Gemini that's saying, hey, get back to the writing, because it's also a great way of reaching people. And with Uranus and Gemini, that can be such brilliant writing, indeed, you know? And we have Venus, the planet of love and beauty and value. It entered the sign of Cancer, the cardinal water sign of Cancer, where Jupiter, the grand benefic, is transiting through June 30th of next year. Jupiter loves being in Cancer. That's bringing us some water in the sky and in the cosmos, because we've got a lot of fire. And so Venus is in Cancer. And this morning it squared Saturn at 9:43 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That can feel restrictive. That can feel sometimes just that you're not being appreciated, or maybe you feel creatively blocked. Saturn can represent blocks. But that's an ephemeral cycle. It's going to pass. It proceeds to square Neptune at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, but this could also be elusive. This could be escapist. This could be deception getting revealed conceivably. There is some tension around relationships, because then Venus will be quincunx Pluto. And that means that they form an inconjunct. They're 150 degrees apart. And that occurs at 10:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time today, and at 1:45 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow. And that can be disappointing. It can also be very creative. And even Venus squaring Saturn, if you get it together, which I don't think I am, clearly, but if you get it together and buckle up, you can get it done. It may take you longer time, it may be very arduous, but then with Venus squaring Neptune, you may have very creative ideas pouring through you and to you, and let's pray you do. And then Venus quincunx Pluto, that can be very heavy emotionally and psychologically. And that can be power plays in relationships. There could be some breakups this weekend with that energy. Venus is definitely making some challenging aspects. There could be some bad news about financial situations. But again, maybe you're eliminating something, Pluto, that is not making you happy and giving you value to your life, Venus. And we add to the story that Mars, the planet of drive and ambition, but also anger and hostility, squares Chiron, the wounded healer. And that occurs tomorrow as well. And that can make people feel very wounded, kind of like Chiron retrograding in Aries. And so that's not easy. So just recognizing that that's not an easy energy, but it will it'll pass as well. Or they're quincunx, they don't square. Mars will be in conjunct Chiron, because Mars is in Virgo and Chiron is in Aries. They're 150 degrees apart. But that's, I think, again, pronouncing the wounds. It's okay to feel burnout. It's okay to feel anger or pain. But what you do with it is your choice. Maybe taking a time out a little bit with all this energy to process your feelings, to mourn the loss, as we are definitely segueing to a whole new beginning. Let's look back again. Pluto's now newly in Aquarius. It's been going back and forth the last couple of years, but it's still at early degrees of Aquarius. Then we had Neptune enter Aries, early degree, and it's close to the world axis, even bigger. 0 degrees of any sign is the first degree of a sign. 0 Cardinal, you're hitting everybody in a big way and big world change. Neptune newly in Aries, March 30th through October 27th, coming back again next year on January 26th for several years. Neptune is about 14 years in a sign. Then we've got Saturn, how you structure, how you build, how you gain more responsibility and focus on your goals. Newly in Aries, where yes, it's in its fall position, but it's a sign that likes to work hard and is pretty fearless. Entered on May 24th through September 1st of this year, returns on February 13th of next year. The two meet up at 0 degrees and 45 minutes of Aries on February 20th. I tell my students, and I'll tell you, circle that date on your calendar, which you probably don't have yet, but on your unconscious or subconscious calendar, that's going to be a big date, okay? And again, we're building a new dream. Now we've got Uranus and Gemini, new degrees up until July 7th through November 7th. It returns on April 25th of next year through May 22nd of 2033. That's a new energy, and Uranus is working in harmony with Pluto and Aquarius, that trine we need to transcend, evolve, and reach whole new paradigms. Neptune in Aries, cultivating a dream. That is awesome, working with the genius around it. We have possibility. We get a glimpse of magic this August, although there's a retrograde energy, and the trine's building stronger, that minor grand trine. I should say that magic triangle. Let's say that. The magical triangle tour is coming to take you away. And this will get strong around August 29th. They'll all be at least at the same degree. I believe it's at 1 degree of Gemini, Aries, Gemini, and Aquarius, respectively. And that's going to be a really very magical energy. I know, again, there's so many obstacles, and with Saturn and Neptune, if, like me, it's hitting a point in your chart, you could feel both depressed, confused, maybe misled with Neptune. You can feel like you're not doing enough to get it done, and you feel stuck and depressed with Saturn, but it's saying, all right, take a time. There's a retrograde energy to search within. It's also a really hot summer, and people are checked out anyway, but we got a big month ahead with eclipses in September. That's going to be a really busy time, and we've got that magical triangle tour. So it's coming to take you away in a good way if you choose. You got choices. And what else do I want to say? Well, that's about it. I think it's good that I did a video. And take care. Creator burnout's real, but got to keep going. Take care.